There is a specific kind of tired that sleep cannot fix. 8 hours, 10 hours, 12. The eyes open and the weight is still there, pressed into the chest like something has been sitting on it all night. The alarm becomes an enemy. The morning becomes a negotiation. The simplest tasks, showering, dressing, answering a message, require a summoning of will that used to be automatic, that used to cost nothing, that now costs everything. This is not laziness. Laziness has energy and chooses not to spend it. This is something else. This is a body that has stopped believing in the life it is being asked to carry. The world has a word for this, and the word is wrong. Depression, they call it. A chemical problem. A brain problem. A thing to be fixed with the right medication, or the right therapist, or the right morning routine. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes the chemistry is genuinely broken and the fixing is mechanical. But sometimes, more often than the medical model wants to admit, the exhaustion is not a malfunction. It is a message. The soul has been sending letters for years and every letter has been returned unopened. So now it has stopped writing and started screaming in the only language that cannot be ignored. The language of a body that refuses to move toward a life it never wanted. Something has been dying and no one held a funeral. A dream that was released so slowly it did not register as loss. A version of self that was edited away, one compromise at a time, until the original became unrecognizable. A hope that stopped being mentioned because mentioning it hurt too much, and hoping seemed childish, and the world kept insisting on practicality. These deaths accumulate. They do not disappear because they are not acknowledged. They sink into the body and take up residence in the limbs, in the heaviness, in the gravitational pull toward horizontal that makes standing feel like rebellion, and lying down feel like the only honest response to a life that has become unbearable without anyone noticing it becoming unbearable. Jung understood that the psyche keeps accounts. The conscious mind refuses to audit. Every betrayal of self is recorded. Every swallowed truth leaves a residue. Every day spent in service of a life that does not belong to the one living it. The soul marks the debt, adds the interest, waits for payment. The waiting can last years. The waiting can last decades. People build entire existences on the assumption that the bill will never come, that the soul can be indefinitely deferred, that the gap between how things look and how things feel can be maintained forever through sheer force of will. But the bill always comes, and when it comes, it does not arrive as insight or clarity or even sadness. It arrives as weight, as fog, as the complete withdrawal of energy from the project of being alive. The body is not broken. The body is working perfectly. It is refusing to fund a war it never agreed to fight, refusing to keep carrying water for a life that was designed by committee, by parents, by culture, by fear, by the desperate need to be acceptable, rather than by the one who has to actually live it. The exhaustion is not the enemy. The exhaustion is the messenger. It is arriving because every other messenger was turned away at the door, because the subtle signals were ignored, because the whispers were dismissed as weakness, because the soul has no other option left except to shut down the entire operation until someone finally pays attention. What would happen if the lying down was not resisted? This is the question that threatens everything. The entire architecture of modern life depends on overriding this signal, on pushing through, on treating the body's no as an obstacle rather than an oracle. Rest is permitted only in measured doses, only in service of returning to productivity, only as a means to the end of more output, But the lying down is not asking for a weekend. It is not asking for a vacation. It is asking for something much more dangerous. It is asking for a complete audit of what this life has become. It is asking for truth. The truth might be unbearable. This is why the lying down is so frightening, why the resistance is so fierce. Listening to what the exhaustion actually wants might mean admitting that the career was a wrong turn, that the relationship has been dead for years, that the entire identity constructed over decades was built on a foundation of fear rather than desire. Listening might require dismantling. Listening might require grief so large it feels unsurvivable. Listening might require becoming a beginner again, at an age when expertise was supposed to be the reward for all the years of compromise. The soul knows this. The soul knows what it is asking. And it is asking anyway, because the alternative, the continuation of the counterfeit life, is a slower death than any dismantling could be. There is something that wants to live, and it is not being allowed to live. This is the message underneath the weight. Some energy, some direction, some version of being alive that was abandoned so long ago, it has almost been forgotten. The exhaustion is not the absence of this energy. It is the presence of it, trapped, unable to move toward what it actually wants, turning inward and becoming heaviness because it has nowhere else to go. The vitality is still there. It has just stopped believing that it will ever be allowed to move towards something real. Jung called this the unlived life, and he believed it was the source of most psychological suffering. Not trauma, though trauma matters. Not chemistry, though chemistry is real. But the slow accumulation of a life that was not lived, the gradual burial of everything authentic under layers of adaptation and performance, and the exhausting maintenance of a self that was constructed for survival rather than truth. The unlived life does not disappear. It festers. It speaks through symptoms. It waits in the body for the moment when it can no longer be ignored. The desire to lie down all day is that moment. It is the unlived life refusing to be unlived any longer. It is the soul going on strike. It is the deepest part of the self saying no to the way things have been, not out of laziness, not out of weakness, but out of a wisdom that the conscious mind has been too busy to access. The lying down knows something. The lying down has been paying attention to things the waking life has been too distracted to notice. The lying down is not the problem. The lying down is the beginning of the solution, if anyone is brave enough to listen to what it is actually asking for. The question is not how to get up. The question is, what has made lying down the only honest response? The question is what life would have to become for the body to believe in it again. The question is what wants to live that has not been allowed to live. The answer is waiting. It has been waiting for years, pressed into the mattress, heavy in the limbs, patient as only the soul can be patient. And it will keep waiting, keep weighing, keep pulling toward horizontal, until someone finally stops fighting long enough to ask what it came here to say.